Social distancing at the chamber, segment we call Happy Hour with Hammer. Joined as always by the CEO of the Arizona Chamber, Glenn Hammer. My name is Garrick Taylor. Glenn, you're back on. You took a night off for part 2 with our trip around Latin America, but you're back. You ready to dive in?
Ready to dive in. That was a great episode. I mean, I didn't want to, going back to high school, I remember the Sandinistas versus the Contras. So to have a chance to talk with Dr. Berg about Nicaragua, that was pretty neat.
Did you think you'd be talking about Sandinistas in 2020?
No, I really didn't. And never been a big fan of that organization.
Not a big fan of the Sandinistas. Okay, well, to each his own.
You look right next door to Costa Rica, and that's one of the most peaceful, beautiful countries on the planet, in Nicaragua. Also a beautiful country, never been there, but much more of a basket case. So
right.
Democracy, much better system of government.
Hey, this is why he gets paid the big bucks. He's not afraid to take on the tough issues, folks.
No, it's true.
All right. Topic 1, the American Legislative Exchange Council comes out with the report. It does these occasional reports where it surveys states' competitive standing. This one looks at the tax environment. This report says Arizona is one of the states, Glenn, that really stands out. I'm looking at some of these talking points that came out of the group. ALEC found certain states to have enacted what they call substantial net tax relief for its citizens. Arizona is only one of 6 states to meet that substantial ranking. Arizona all over this report, Glenn.
Well, I was so happy to see that report because, it's something we put a ton of time in at a chamber. We understood the importance of getting tax conformity right. And we were fortunate that we had a governor and leaders in the legislature, like Representative Ben Toma, that really cared about getting this issue just right. And what I mean about that was getting the conformity piece lined up with the federal Jobs Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which, by the way, we put more time in than any other organization. Getting that right, but also fixing the Wayfair fix, which has to do with making sure that we're properly taxing all products that are sold via the internet, so that localities and the state collect proper sales tax. Amazon has done so for quite some time, but a lot of other sellers basically were able to get out from under that fairness issue. And this package of tax items did it all. And I was thrilled to see ALEC recognize it. And that goes back, when you go back in the way back machine to a year, the National Tax Foundation had very strong positive words to say about Arizona's efforts as well.
It's worth reminding folks when these reports come out that these were pro-growth reforms, pegging the state standard deduction to that of the feds, shrinking the number of tax brackets. And yet, as you pointed out, it was a package deal, came with Wayfair reform, and, oh, by the way, a big deposit into the state's rainy day fund. And thank goodness that happened in light of where we sit today.
And I forgot about that. So this was a home run on all fronts. It, for the first time in, 12, 13, 15 years, lowered the top tax rate. It collapsed from 5 to 4, our total tax rates, by tax brackets, I should say.
Right.
And by doubling or so our standard deduction, it simplified our taxes for so many Arizonans. It's a huge percentage. I can't recall exactly what. And think about it. We're right in the middle of a pandemic. Who wants to be spending their time itemizing their taxes if they don't have to?
Right.
So this is the type of reform that really will age very well, makes Arizona much more competitive. And I think, if you had to say what are sort of 10 big things of Governor Doug Ducey's administration from an economic point of view, this is easily a top 10, top 5 item. And to be recognized by ALEC in such a positive way sort of proves that point.
Governors are always going to have their critics on either side of the aisle, but his tax agenda has been a responsible one, and it's resulted in dramatic economic growth. I think this is something to crow about.
Simplification is always good. Reducing the top rate, that's always a big deal.
Mhm.
And again, I just think that you take a look at the way the governor and the Arizona Commerce Authority with Sandra Watson have been able to sell the state. You take a look at some of the different economic development things. We've improved this state responsibly while maintaining, as you said, record deposit into the state's rainy day fund to put our state in the strongest possible position we could for the unthinkable to happen. And it's fair to say, given this program where we are, the unthinkable did happen.
Right.
And Arizona was as well prepared as any state possibly could have been.
All right. Speaking of the governor, let's go to topic 2. He held a press conference today to update the public on where we sit from a public health standpoint. Any takeaways that you've got from that event, Glenn?
Yeah, the two highlights is, again, we're just it's steady progress for the state as we're reopening. And the two big takeaways is that we are going to hear play ball again. It's not going to be Major League Baseball, but it's going to be Little League Baseball. That's going to happen first, and that's positive. We want the youngsters out there safely playing their youth sports, and hopefully the adults, the Major League Baseball and the union, will figure it out and come back and play. And I bet that will happen. We have to remember the governor was one of the first in the country to say we're open for professional sports. That offer still stands, and we'll see about that. But I think there's some momentum for Major League Baseball at least to do something. The other thing was that the school year is going to start again with kids in classroom with flexibility,
Right.
meaning teachers who may have compromised systems, or students who may have compromised systems. We'll figure out a way that they can remain teaching and remain educated in a safe manner. So I would thought those were two pretty big takeaways from today.
Flexibility is going to be key, whether you're K-12 or higher ed. You and I visited with Dr. Cheng from NAU last week, and she threw some new ideas out there. I know you were intrigued by the idea of maybe we're going to start earlier our college campuses and maybe send the kids home by Thanksgiving. We're all going to be figuring this out, and also the younger kids, we're going to have to be nimble.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think we have a lot to learn from both K through 12 and higher ed. All three of our universities, Dr. Crow's put a ton into the online experience, both at the university level and K through 12. And University of Arizona, is also doing a lot of incredible things in that area. And to have all three of those schools opening with people is very important. We know our community colleges are also moving in a similar direction. So we're going to be flexible, we'll be nimble, we'll learn from each other,
Right.
and we'll make this a safe, productive experience. And I just want to say a lot of credit to Governor Ducey and Superintendent Hoffman for their leadership and working so well together in a bipartisan fashion. It's been really exemplary.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about that. It's a good segue to topic 3, which is the broader Arizona reopening. You talked about things like pro sports, youth sports, K-12 and higher ed. What about the rest of the Arizona economy? We're only about a week or so into the broader reopening. Any reflections on how it's been going so far?
I feel that we are in the pole position in the country. And you take a look at during the pandemic, the great announcements of Zoom adding hundreds of jobs, Taiwan Semiconductor adding over 1,600 jobs. And these are in 2 hot areas. We're on a Zoom call right now. When you think about the modern economy, it revolves around semiconductors, and have Intel and Intel as an anchor tenant, and we're well positioned. But what I also found really encouraging is that, from some of the national stuff I've read, people are returning to our restaurants at a greater rate than in other states. They're still down, but they're coming back pretty nicely and better than other states. Our hospitality industry, our hotels are repopulating. So now you can get the spa experience, the pool, the gym, the restaurants. That's coming back. retail is coming back as well. And then you look at areas we never shut down. We never shut down manufacturing. We never shut down construction. We never shut down mining. And the job losses in those areas were a lot less than other states. So, Garrick, if we're on a good path, we're on a good path to continue to re-energize the economy and to do so safely. Our hospitals have done a great job, and they're we're not seeing any trends that lead me to believe anything but. We're going to continue to safely reopen Arizona's economy and get people back to work.
There have been some businesses that have faced some criticism. You've seen some comments from Mayor Lane sort of giving some fatherly advice to some businesses. And you know what? Fair enough. But Glenn, the vast majority of employers are really wrestling with this topic of how to safely and responsibly reopen. The vast majority are really putting a lot of time and energy to this process.
And this is why the liability reform to me is so important. The employers in the state of Arizona, I could speak to with authority, are vast majority are doing everything possible to make sure that their workplaces are safe for their employers and their their employees and their customers.
Sure.
And the protocols that they're establishing are the protocols that are going to change habits that make us all safer, whether we're in that place of business or we're in a public space or we're in a private space. And I'm talking about, having whether it's wearing face masks if you're not able to socially distance, or having plenty of hand sanitizer and things like that. The creativity, the entrepreneurial spirit of Arizonans is really inspiring. And it's another reason why, we're going to return stronger from this terrible disease, which has caused, a lot of deaths and a lot of injuries. But we're going to learn a lot about how to keep people safe, and we'll have a safer society going forward for other illnesses as a result of it.
Well said. All right, another edition in the books. Glenn, thanks as always. We'll catch you on the next episode.
All right. Thanks, Garrick.